Welcome to our tutorial on responsive theming with Angular and CSS variables. Let's start by looking at the imports. Here, we're importing host listener and component from Angular core, which are essential decorators for our application. We're also importing renderer2, a service that will allow us to safely modify our DOM elements. Next is the component decorator, which is used to define a class as an Angular component, providing metadata like the selector, template, and styles. In this case, appRoot is the selector we'll use for our root component. In the appComponent class, we're injecting the renderer2 instance within the constructor. Immediately we're calling the update CSS Variables method, passing it the initial window width. This is to make sure our application has the correct styles applied from the very start, depending on the user's current viewport size. We're using the host listener decorator to listen for the window resize event. Every time the window is resized, the onResize method will be triggered with the event as its argument. Inside the onResize method, we're updating the CSS variables by calling the update CSS Variables method. We're passing the inner width of the window, which tells us the current width of the viewport. Let's dive into the update CSS Variables method. This method accepts a single parameter, width, which we use to determine which CSS variables need to be applied. We start by getting a reference to the root of the document. This is the root selector in CSS, which is where we'll be defining our CSS variable values. We're using a simple if statement to check the width. If the width is less than 600 pixels, we categorize the device as small. For small devices, we're setting our primary color variable to blue and the font size to 14 pixels by using the setProperty method on the root element's style object. Next, we have an else if block to determine if the device is medium-sized, meaning the width is between 600 and 900 pixels. For medium devices, we change the primary color to green and the font size to 16 pixels using the same setProperty method. Finally, if the width doesn't meet any of the previous conditions, we assume the device is large. In this case, we set the primary color to red and the font size to 18 pixels. And that concludes our responsive theming implementation using CSS variables with Angular.